No one knows why they were invited. The old mansion on the hill had been abandoned for decades, a skeletal silhouette against the stormy sky. Yet here they were. 5 strangers, drawn together by a mysterious letter with a simple, chilling message to come. The truth awaits. They gathered before the mansion's massive, decaying door, each one a bundle of nerves and reluctant curiosity. The air, thick with rain and foreboding, seemed to press in on them. Jenna's voice trembled, a fragile thread in the howling wind. This place. It feels wrong. Are we sure we should be here? Ethan, trying to project a confidence he didn't feel, shrugged. We're here for answers, right? Let's just go inside. With a collective, hesitant breath, they pushed the heavy door open and stepped into the darkness. A loud, groaning creak echoed behind them as the door slammed shut, sealing them inside. The air in the mansion was heavy, thick with the smell of dust and decay. It clung to the back of their throats. As their eyes adjusted, they saw vast, dusty halls stretching into shadow. The furniture, draped in white cloths like silent ghosts, stood frozen in time. But it was the walls that drew their attention. Strange symbols, intricate and unsettling, were etched into the plaster. Liam's whisper was sharp in the silence. This house. It's like it's alive. Look at these symbols. What are they? Sophie, a student of the arcane, frowned, her mind racing. They're ancient. I've seen something like this before in old texts. But why would they be here? Suddenly, a deafening crash shattered the stillness from the floor above. The group froze, hearts pounding in their chests. A long, tense silence followed, broken only by their ragged breaths. Jenna's whisper was barely audible. Did you hear that? Ethan, steeling himself, nodded grimly. It came from upstairs. Let's check it out. They moved as one toward the grand, spiraling staircase, each step a reluctant journey deeper into the unknown. They reached the second floor, a long, dark hallway where the air turned bitingly cold. As they crept along the corridor, one door stood slightly ajar, a sliver of deeper blackness in the gloom. The room beyond was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos from moments before. Liam hesitated. Should we go in? Sophie's voice was tight with apprehension. I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. Ignoring the warning in their gut, they pushed the door fully open. The room was empty, stark and bare, save for an old, cracked mirror hanging on the far wall. As they stared into its clouded surface, the impossible happened. The reflection moved on its own. A shadowy figure materialized behind their reflected images, a dark shape where nothing stood in the real room. Jenna let out a terrified scream. There's something in the mirror. They spun around in a panic, their flashlights cutting wildly through the empty space. No one was there. When they looked back, the reflection was normal again, the figure gone as if it had never been. Ethan, shaking his head, tried to rationalize it. It's just the house playing tricks. Let's keep moving. But the seed of terror had been planted. They pressed deeper into the mansion's labyrinthine corridors. The feeling of being watched intensified, the very walls seeming to close in around them. The floorboards groaned under their weight, each creak like a pained sigh. Then it began. Soft whispers, rising from the silence. At first, they were unintelligible, a faint, sibilant hiss that slithered through the air. But they grew louder, more insistent. Sophie's eyes darted around, wide with panic. Do you hear that? Someone's talking. But no one's here. Liam's voice was frantic as he ran a hand along the wall. It's coming from the walls. There's something behind them. The whispers grew more distinct, coalescing into a language none of them understood, an ancient, guttural tongue filled with desperation and sorrow. It felt like 1,000 pleading voices trapped just beyond the veil. The psychic pressure was immense. Jenna broke down, covering her ears and crying, "Please, make it stop. It's too much." Ethan grabbed her arm, his own composure cracking. "We need to get out of here, now." As they scrambled to retreat, Liam stumbled against a section of the wall. He stopped, his hand still pressed against it. "Wait," he said, his voice low. "This feels different. This part of the wall isn't wood." He knocked on it, and the sound was a dull thud. It was stone. Pushing against it, he felt a slight give. With a collective effort, they heaved against the section, and with a grinding creak, it swung inward, revealing a hidden passage that plunged into absolute darkness. A cold, musty air wafted out, carrying the scent of earth and forgotten time. Sophie looked from the passage to her friends' terrified faces. "Should we go down there? It could be a way out." Ethan's response was grim. "Or it could be the reason this place is cursed." But with the whispers swelling behind them, they had no choice. They descended into the passage, their footsteps echoing into the oppressive blackness below. The narrow passage opened into a subterranean room, a bizarre cellar filled with the refuse of forgotten lives. Old, leather-bound books with brittle pages, rows of broken dolls with staring glass eyes, clocks with no hands, and strange, murky jars filled with unidentifiable contents. The air was thick and stagnant. Jenna, drawn by a morbid curiosity, reached out and picked up a dusty porcelain doll. "What is all this? Why is this stuff here?" As her fingers brushed the doll, the atmosphere in the room changed. It grew heavy, charged with a malevolent energy. The objects began to move. The clocks, silent for decades, began to tick loudly, the sound accelerating into a frantic, chaotic rhythm. The whispers returned, no longer pleading, but screaming in a cacophony of spectral rage. "These things, they're alive!" Sophie cried out, stumbling backward. Liam yelled, "We need to leave now." They turned to flee, but the passageway was gone. A solid stone wall stood where the opening had been. The walls of the room itself seemed to be contracting, pressing in on them. Shadows swirled from the corners, and the objects on the shelves began to writhe and reach out, as if pulling them into the room's dark heart. Jenna's final scream was one of pure despair. "No. We're trapped." Just as all hope seemed lost, a new light appeared in the center of the room. A large, ornate door materialized from the swirling shadows, glowing with a faint, ethereal light. The deafening whispers and screeching objects all seemed to converge on this single point. It was their only hope. "There's no other choice," Ethan yelled over the din, desperation in his voice. "We have to go through the door." They scrambled towards it, pushed it open, and stumbled through into a blinding white light. They found themselves back in the main hall of the mansion, blinking in the dim light filtering through the grimy windows. The house was utterly silent. The air was still. It was as if nothing had happened. Liam looked around, his face a mask of confusion. What just happened? Were we dreaming? Sophie shook her head slowly, a chilling realization dawning on her face. No. This place. It doesn't let you leave. It doesn't want you to leave. Her words hung in the air. As they looked towards the mansion's front door, they saw it was now slightly ajar. A pale figure stood in the doorway, watching them. It was indistinct, but its eyes glowed with an unnatural, predatory light. A new whisper, this time from Jenna, cut through the silence. "It's not over. It's never over." The figure took a silent step forward, and the world plunged into blackness. The old mansion stands empty and silent once more. The front door slowly creaks shut, and for a moment, all is still. But if you listen closely, just before it closes, you can hear it. The faint sound of whispers, beginning again. The mansion is never truly empty. It claims another set of souls, adding them to its collection of forgotten things. For those who enter, there are no exits. They simply wait in the shadows, in the walls. For the next visitors who dare to seek the truth, thank you so much for joining me on this terrifying journey. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. And consider subscribing for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there, and remember, some doors are best left unopened.